Welcome to Tall Talk Times podcast, a podcast made by tall people.
For beautifully tall people.
I'm Letty Saunders.
And I'm Tom Garner. Hello, Letty.
Hi, Tom.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm a lot better now I've eaten.
Me too. I'm full as a tick. Letty has just made a very nice meal. Halloumi fries, no less.
Yum,
yum, yum, yum, yum.
I love halloumi. It's so good. And I only eat once a day, so that's delicious.
Once a day?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I can't do that. I'm such a gannet and a grazer.
Oh.
Yes.
But it's all part of my plan to take over the world.
Of course, yes. She doesn't need food, she just needs power. Yeah.
So we have a really good lineup this evening.
We have an interview, Letty.
Yeah.
And so our interview, I'm really pleased because we are very inclusive at Tall Talk Times.
Yeah, we are.
And I'm sure our interviewer won't mind us saying this, but he is our oldest member.
And one of our smartest.
And one of our smartest
and
as well.
most charming.
Yes, so later on we're going to be interviewing Phil Daniels, who is a Blitz baby, no less. So we'll be chatting to him and what it was like to be tall across the many decades that he has lived.
Yeah, because I'm sure society's view of height has changed.
Yes, and his interview reflects that. He does touch on that in the upcoming interview. So we're fascinated to talk to him because it's always good to talk to someone who's got a breadth of life experience.
Yeah, I mean, I like old people, intelligent old people.
So good. So we're going to talk to Phil later, but first, Letty, we have a wonderful section beforehand.
What's that? Oh, hold on, it starts with a G.
Have a little guess.
Is it something about the past?
Something? Yes, you're touching on it. Yeah.
Giants of history.
Yes, giants of history. So exciting. So this week, our giant of history is a pirate.
I love pirates.
Yeah.
Actually, love, that sounded bad. No, I love pirate stories.
Yeah. So basically, strap yourselves in, weigh the anchor, and yo ho ho and a bottle of rum. For this week, our giant of history is none other than Blackbeard.
Oh, brilliant.
Yes.
Tall?
But 6'4".
Taller than me, wasn't he?
Taller than me, yeah. So have you heard of Blackbeard, Letty?
I have.
Is it just a name?
To me, yeah. I read the stories when I was many years ago when I was young.
Well, I think it's time for a refresh then.
Come on then, Tom.
Okay, so Blackbeard, I'm going to call him by his actual name for most of the podcast. His real name was Edward Teach.
Oh, that's boring though. I'd like you to call him Blackbeard for the rest of this.
No, can't do that. So I'm going to call him Edward Teach for this one. So he's born in Bristol in around the year 1680. So he's from the West Country. He's got quite a fearsome private.
Do you think he had an accent?
He must have had an accent. We've all got an accent. What, do you think he just talked with received?
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah, with a proper C, with a proper C accent rather than like a colloquial accent.
Well, without radio and sound recordings, it's going to be impossible to know how he sounded. But what I can tell you is he's the most famous pirate to emerge from what is now known as the golden age of piracy. Now, of course, piracy is a serious crime, so calling it a golden age is something of a weird one. But pirates have got romanticised,
haven't they?
Yeah, so romanticised, and it's largely due to guys like Blackbeard who are operating in the late 17th and early 18th century. So Edward Teach, he operated around the West Indies and the eastern coast of Britain's North American colonies. So the North American colonies are now part of what is now the United States. And because he was raised in Bristol, he was raised in what was then England's second largest city, and it was an international seaport for Britain's rapidly expanding colonies.
Okay.
So he first starts his career as a privateer, which is like a pirate, but with a licence from a government.
Oh, a government's pirate.
Yeah. So it's an official pirate.
Official pirate.
Yeah, so you can commit all sorts of horrible crimes, but because it's government sanctions, you can get away with it.
Contentious listeners.
Well, yes, of course. So he probably served as a privateer in the Caribbean initially during the War of the Spanish Succession, which is, even for a historian like me, such a mouthful to pronounce. So we'll skip over that. But he did gain a reputation for bravery. But even though he's born in 1680, he only really emerges in the historical records in 1716, when he settled on a Bahamian, is that the right word? He settled in the Bahamas, yes.
Yeah, it's easier.
So one of the islands in the Bahamas is called New Providence, and he commanded a ship called a sloop under the command of an actual pirate, not a privateer, called Captain Benjamin Hornigold.
Hornigold?
Yes, which is a marvellous surname.
Yes, quite.
Yes. So the two of them captured more ships, and when Hornigold, I can't say it. It's such a weird carry-on movie name. So when Captain Hornigold retired from piracy,
I'm sorry, listen.
I know it's terrible. Tell you what, let's just acknowledge it. Hornigold is a terrible surname.
Can you start calling this pirate Blackbeard, please? We can't talk about Blackbeard by his proper name.
What, Mr. Teach?
No.
All right. So when Captain Hornigold, for the last time, when he retires from piracy, Blackbeard captures a French slave ship that he renames Queen Anne's Revenge, which is such a pirate name. Queen Anne's Revenge is armed with 40 guns, that's cannons, and it's crewed by 300 men. And when he takes command, he uses the ship to gain an infamous reputation. So what he does, he forms an alliance of pirates and he blockades Charleston in South Carolina.
Wow.
Now, this is his most brazen act. So what he did, he stopped and plundered 9 ships as they attempted to leave the harbour. He also looted the town, which demonstrated that he was willing to maraud wherever he liked, including on land as well as sea.
Maraud is a good word.
It's a fantastic word. We all need a bit of marauding in our lives. But I should say that despite he's got an infamous reputation, not because necessarily of what he did, but it was a persona that he built up to strike fear into his victims. So he was a very shrewd, clever man, and he would actually avoid violence on the high seas wherever possible. So his appearance and height is a significant part of this. So there's one man who came across him, a merchant sea captain called Henry Bostock, and he described Blackbeard as a tall, spare man with a very black beard, which he wore very long. So imagine a 6'4" burly man. His beard apparently was braided into pigtails, and there's a description of him from 1724, which described him like this. He was such a figure that imagination cannot form an idea of a fury from hell to look more frightful.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, to add to his appearance, now bear in mind, we're talking about a giant man for the time. He had wild eyes, an explosive temper, and he would deliberately tuck slow-burning cannon fuses under his hat when boarding ships, so it made him look as though his head was on fire, basically. So this is one scary man.
What an image, though.
Such an image. Hence why Blackbeard, his nickname is more well known than his real name, Edward Teach, for instance. His height, he was not a skinny man. His height was accentuated by broad shoulders. Now, despite his ferocious reputation, there's actually no evidence of him murdering or harming those that he held captive. So it's all about image. He's using his height.
So he was good at PR.
Extremely good at PR. Yeah, a very good PR man, but in a very illegal way.
Never good.
Never good, no. So for 2 years, he terrorizes the high seas around the Caribbean and the Carolinas, up the Atlantic seaboard.
Yeah.
But his luck runs out in 1718, when his ship battled the Royal Navy off the coast of North Carolina. So there was a close quarters battle, which was fought on one of the naval ships. Now the pirates, and this includes Blackbeards, they were ambushed by British sailors in hand-to-hand combat, which is very parts of the Caribbean.
Wow.
Now, Blackbeard personally fought the British commander, a guy called Lieutenant Robert Maynard. He fought him with pistols and swords until he was wounded by the sailors and killed.
Oh.
Now, I think his height gave him a lot of strength, because by the time he was killed, he was found to have had 5 bullet wounds in his body and 20 sword cuts before he was actually felled to the ground. This is
20 sword cuts.
20 sword cuts. So this is one tough geezer. That's a colloquial term. But he was a very, very tough man.
Uh-huh.
And the Navy was so pleased that they killed him that the Lieutenant Maynard, he decapitated him.
Oh.
So he chopped his head off and put the head on the bowsprit, that's the front of the ship,
Yeah.
during the journey back to Virginia, when it was then displayed on a spike.
For everyone to see.
For everyone to see, yeah. So it's basically as a common criminal, but his reputation has lived on ever since as the most famous pirate there was. So I can just imagine a very tall 6'4" man with a flaming head and a massive beard,
With pigtails.
boarding a ship and wreaking havoc.
He owned those pigtails, though.
Mm?
He owned them.
Oh,
He
yeah.
made them look like really good.
Oh yeah. So he's a very scary man, but a giant of history nonetheless.
Yeah, absolute giant of history.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's really interesting. I had a party once many years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I dressed up as a pirate.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it was a Halloween party, so
Was it fun?
a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. Fancy dress outfits,
Yeah.
pirates, great for women as well. There's female pirates, of course.
There was Anne, Bonny, and Mary Read. They were a duo, and they went around pirating.
I bet they had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Interestingly, back to the question of height, Blackbeard I think he would have struggled on his ship because ships back then, they didn't have below deck tiny ceilings. So if you've ever been to HMS Victory in Portsmouth,
yeah,
the ceilings there are so uncomfortably low. And bear in mind, that was built in the 1760s. So you're only talking 50 years or so after Blackbeard was operating.
You need to go to Bristol. There's one over there as well.
What, a pirate ship?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like a big ship. It's not a pirate ship.
But it's but to go back to the point, these ships would have been terrible to live in as a tall man. But interestingly, on HMS Victory, when I went round, I was on a guided tour. The tour guide saw me and he said, "You know what? You were the same height
Wow.
as the carpenter
Oh, whoa.
who worked on HMS Victory." And so he said he was around 6'6" or 6'7".
Not that Tom knows his height.
Well, I think it's 6'6" plus, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But this carpenter, his job was to obviously fix the ship all the time. But he would have been in agony if you think about it.
I don't know, how much rum would he have had?
But think about yes, true. But think about the back pain, having to crouch all the time and below deck. Having said that, his height would come in useful as well.
Yeah.
On Victory, because as a carpenter, he had to shimmy in between the planks of the hull, and he needed his height to get to the nooks and crannies that other men couldn't reach. So there was some use to being very tall in wooden ships of that day. But yeah, overall, I wouldn't recommend.
He would have been most uncomfortable.
Yeah.
As would Blackbeard have been, but rightly so, because he was a bad.
Yeah, and I assume he would have had a big cabin to himself and could have wandered on the top deck more than his men. You assume?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But really interesting, Tom, this giant of history.
No, you're welcome.
I do like to hear about these, because you always think, oh, everyone in the past was short.
No.
But they weren't.
No, they were just like us.
Beautifully tall.
Beautifully tall and bad.
No, we're not bad, listeners.
No, we're not bad. They were bad.
Just drawn that way.
Yeah. So there you go. Giants of history, Blackbeard. Arr.
Do that again.
Arr.
I need it.
Dude, I have no shame. And listeners, I'm really, really sorry for that pirate impression.
I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm sure it made a few people laugh. Let's bring some laughter and positivity into this. We're going to go over now to Mr. Phil Daniels. That's the co-founder, Nat Daniels' father.
Good.
And we'll have a chat with him. He's such a gent.
Yeah, such a gent. He's got that charm that comes with that generation. It's hard to define. You'd call it old fashioned these days.
He's a legend.
Yeah, but he's a legend. Yeah.
And there's a very few and far between gentlemen like that around.
Yeah. And it's interesting hearing what it's like to be tall across quite a few decades. But it's good that his parents encouraged him to be positive about it.
Well, they started the tall positivity thing.
They
did.
Exclusively.
Exclusively, just them. No, but they did. They raised him to be, to know that he was like, my mother said to me, you're beautifully tall, stand up.
Yeah.
And they said, no, come on, stand up.
Yeah, of course.
And then that's obviously, gone down the generations to Nat, co-founder.
And here we are.
And here we are.
Yes.
I'm pleased that we do the interviews.
Of course, yeah. I think it's really nice to hear from our members and listeners.
Yeah.
And particularly to chat to them firsthand as well. Yeah. It's definitely it helps the inclusivity of the thing. Because otherwise it might just be me and you.
How boring.
Nattering on and on and on and on.
Chattering on.
Jiggering away. Yeah.
I hope that our listeners know from whatever age they are that they will be represented at some point. And if you have any ideas or would like to be interviewed and you have a particular stance or a particular anecdote on being tall, just let us know.
Don't be shy. Just say hi. Fantastic. So, what's coming up next time?
Next week,
Yes.
will be episode 8, Tom.
8.
I know.
We're nudging towards double figures.
I know.
Good
Hey,
Lord.
do you know how many people we have in the Facebook group?
No.
Hundreds now.
Hundreds?
Hundreds.
Good Lord.
But they all want to be there. They're all active.
That's fantastic.
I am really proud of everyone.
I'm so pleased. Thank you to everybody for joining up for this. Really, I mean, this wouldn't be possible without you, really. Otherwise, it'd just be me and Letty talking into thin air, which is great. But it's great that you guys are on board. Hundreds, you say?
Hundreds.
And across the world as well, I hear.
Across the world, and they're active, and they're getting involved. And, I don't really need to contribute that much because it's... Crikey, we've created it.
Oh, should we just
They're
stop?
off.
Should we just stop then?
No, I've been told not to.
Oh, yes.
For next week, you did ask, Tom.
Yes, I did ask. I just got overexcited.
We have a very tall young man being interviewed next week.
This is James McAlpine.
James is 7'2".
That's a very tall young man.
He's really positive about his height
That's great. Yeah.
and such an inspiration for people of all ages. I can teach. You'll hear the interview next week, and I think everybody will be really pleased to hear from James.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be a really good listen. So definitely tune in next week to hear James's interview.
And then we have obviously Giants of History. Yeah.
Of course we do. Why is there this tone of doubt in your voice?
I can't believe you can find so many tall historical figures.
Well, Letty, they do say that the geeks shall inherit the earth. So,
Geek's cool. Go with it. You're
exactly.
fine.
Yeah.
But we have Giants. And who? Do you know who it is, Tom?
Oh, that would be telling. I do actually, and I'll only give you a very slight clue in that next week will be a fireside chat. But that's the only clue I'm giving you.
That's nothing.
Well, I know, but some people might get it. You never know.
Oh, please, if you do get it, could you pop on the Facebook group and expose the Giants of History before it comes on air?
Well, I think people need to be left in suspense. Gives them something to look forward to. Also, it means that you must simply tune in next week to find out what on earth I'm talking about.
Yeah, that would help.
Yeah. So, Letty, have you enjoyed this episode of Tool Talk Times?
I have. I really enjoyed speaking with Phil.
Yeah, he was fantastic. Yeah.
One of the best people that we've interviewed.
Did you enjoy the piracy?
I do like a pirate.
We like a pirate, don't we?
I know, red flags everywhere, but I like a pirate.
We like a pirate.
And obviously, when we talk about piracy, your accents come out.
They just
and that's always fab.
I am an unrepentant purveyor of silly voices. I can't help myself.
You called me a mimic earlier.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
So we have accents and mimicry.
Yes. It's all for the better, I think. Variety is the spice of life. Yeah.
And an awful lot of tool positivity.
Exactly. Beautifully tool positivity.
You asked me a question on clothing, actually, just before we go.
I did, didn't I? It was so good I've forgotten. Remind me. What did I say?
So you were asking me, I shop online an awful lot, and I do like to buy preloved.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Or just, not wasting the budget, because I have a bit of a problem with clothes, so I have to be careful.
She eats them. Anyway.
I don't like going into shops so much.
Well, why is that?
Because, I'm 6'3" and I want to find something, and you hold things up, and the 5'2" sales assistant sniggering. And I don't appreciate that. So, yeah, you get used to looking at something online and seeing whether it would fit. Not necessarily if it's a tall range, because lots of tall women are buying that tall range. I don't want to buy or wear the same as them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know some designers that are that go literally design a dress for a longer figure.
Yeah. It's interesting how we're all built rather differently. I mean, obviously, there's a gender difference, but for example, you struggle to get like tops, for instance.
Well, the sleeve length.
Yeah. I mean, whereas for me, all of my height is mainly in my legs. So my torso, for instance, is relatively average sized, I suppose, and my feet are average sized for a male too. So the only thing I struggle with is the getting trousers. So I have to go to either a tall man's shop or go on a website. And it's inconvenient, but I can't. I'm lucky in that I don't have to think about the whole outfit.
Sure.
From head to toe. Yeah.
No, I think I'm pretty evenly distributed, torso and legs. Just there's a lot of me. And for this episode, thank you for listening. You've been great, and thank you to Phil. Today we are interviewing founder Nat Daniels' father, Mr. Phil Daniels.
Hello, Phil.
Hello, Tom. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Phil. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm very, very good. Thank you.
Jolly.
Not enjoying this weather. Bit drizzly, but apart from that, fine.
Well, who does enjoy this sort of weather, eh?
I know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully, Phil, by the time the podcast goes off, sun will be everywhere.
I'm sure. Fingers crossed. Spring is in the air.
I hope so, yeah. Phil, I forget. How old are you?
84.
84. So you are.
And I won't say 84 young, because it goes without saying, really, doesn't it?
I think age is an energy, though, don't you? It's not a number. It's if you feel young.
Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't agree with that more.
So, Phil, if you're 84 years old, what year were you born?
In 1940.
You're born in 1940?
Yes.
Wow, so it's during the Second World War. I have heard, Phil, that during the war, did you hide in Chislehurst Caves?
Yes.
What happened there?
We certainly did. Well, just a quick rundown. I'm the youngest of four brothers.
Yeah.
And basically, we were in what they call Bomb Alley, which was in the from the south coast up to London, pretty well named. And we were in the Sidcup area, which was just in line. And things got really bad. And there was a documentary on my family by Testimony Films called A Labour of Love. And I've got the book here in front of me. And shall I just read you a little bit of it?
Yes,
of
please.
What women went through at that time. And the book is various women, how they dealt with it, the way things were.
Yeah.
And this is my mother, Mari Daniels, born 1910. She says in the book, and it was on film as well, I felt completely and utter panic for my family and for myself, for everybody. The siren went and we all rushed for gas masks. Nothing happened. The terrible part about the gas masks was my three eldest sons could put the gas masks on themselves, but the baby was very small, i.e. that was me.
Yeah.
He had to go into a great big contraption. You tried to get him in this thing, but it was very, very hard. He was tiny and wriggly, and it was very awkward to get him inside. He just squirmed, he cried. You more or less had to give up. You had rigged the Anderson shelter up to the best of your ability with all the bedclothes and the warmth down there. When the air raid siren used to go, I used to roll the baby up quickly in a big towel and everything ready for him, take him down to the shelter. I tried to keep as normal as I possibly could under the circumstances. The four children and myself, we all sort of ran like mad to get down there. You were even afraid of tripping. Once you were down there, you felt a certain amount of safety, but not an awful lot. Anyway, so that's just a path. So that'll give you an idea of what it's like. And what, obviously, I don't funnily enough, I do remember, the thing I remember most was even at that young age, I can still smell the damp because it was very damp in the Chislehurst Caves. But of course, it was safer than being outside.
Yeah.
I mean, just to give listeners a bit of context, just to find out what Chislehurst Caves was during the war. This is in Kent. And when the Blitz of
That's
London,
right.
and when the Blitz of London began, they were used as these were natural caves. They were man-made caves, but they were used as an air raid shelter. And I found a couple of facts. They became an underground city accommodating up to 15,000 people, and they would pay a penny each to enter. And apparently, they were fitted out with electric lighting, toilets, and washing facilities, and even a hospital.
Correct.
So, just for listeners who might not realise what Chislehurst Caves was, that it was a series of man-made caves in Kent.
It was dug out by the Druids.
By the Druids?
Really?
Oh, wow.
Do you think there are ley lines, like spiritual druidy ley lines in the Chislehurst Caves?
I honestly don't know. I don't.
I'm going to have a look now.
I did hear, though, Phil, that the caves became an underground complex. They could house up to 15,000 people, and they'd have to pay a penny to enter for safety. And they had things like lighting and toilets, washing facilities, and even a chapel and a hospital. So it's quite literally a hidden part of the war history. I was wondering, Phil, you mentioned your mother. Was she tall herself?
Yeah, she was actually.
Yeah.
She was probably 5'11".
Yeah.
So she's tall enough for the group?
Exactly. That's what I had down. She could have been a member. But, yeah.
And I was wondering, at what age did you realise that you yourself were tall?
Well, strangely enough, from quite a young age, mainly because my dad was fairly tall, probably about 5'10", and they always sort of instilled, well, if you like, instilled really that how lovely it was to be tall, to try and walk straight, be proud, and so yes, from quite a young age, I wasn't a shrinking violet, trying to sort of look shorter than I really was. I was quite proud to be tall from a young age.
Great. So you, Phil, were the very start when your parents of the tall positivity, the whole stand, straighten your back, walk proud. How tall are you, Phil?
At the moment, I'm 6'2", actually. I was taller, probably closer to 6'4", but at my age, you don't get taller, you go a little shorter. But I still try and walk tall.
So, Phil, so you must have reached your full height in the 1950s, I suppose?
Yeah, in the 50s, probably, yeah, that's about right.
So you've had so there's been many decades of being a tall man. I was wondering, do you think society's views of being tall has changed over the decades?
Actually, yes. I think in the day, earlier on, it was the usual thing, what's it like up there? Is it cold? All the usual things that people say to you. But now, because people seem to be living longer and they're getting taller, in my view. So, yes, there's sort of issues with it now. And I do think there's just been a change, but it's more acceptable, if you like. Not that it was ever unacceptable.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe a lot of people might have preferred that they were taller. Who knows? Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's becoming more commonplace by the sound of it, which says something for people's. Do you think that's down to people's nutrition changing? Because they often say that height is to do with how you're brought up and what you're fed when you're younger.
I think so. I mean, one of the things were that, first of all, I didn't read any more because of from my mother's experiences, but our sort of diet was very, very poor because there wasn't a lot of food around in those days. But yes, definitely. I mean, I think people are better educated, better fed. There's more understanding, and hopefully more compassion, all round.
And I was wondering, as a final question, because a lot of our group is all about body positivity and being proud of being tall, but we're also aware that it's sometimes not easy to be a tall person. Do you have any advice for those who might be struggling with their height? Does it get better if you're feeling insecure? Does it get better when you get older, or do things not change? What's your view on that?
Yeah, Yes, I think positivity is the right word. My wife, Anne, We've got pictures. She's very tall. You will meet her soon. She's 5'11", and there's pictures of her when she was about 14 at weddings and one thing and another, where you can actually see she's trying to bend down to look shorter.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
She doesn't do that now, though, does she, Phil?
Not at all. Not at all.
Brilliant.
And I presume, Phil, you would have encouraged your children to stand tall as well, because they're very tall. I know Nat's very tall, for instance.
Well, yes, and obviously I think that told you about Zeph, our grandson, his son, 6'2" and modelling. So great, yeah.
So it's all for the good.
Yeah, he's done so well. He's done really, really well.
Yeah.
But with positive parents and grandparents to be able to encourage and make these young men, instead of being a bit shy about their height, realising that they're beautifully tall and it's a positive thing. And the confidence is obviously there with your grandson. He's doing great.
Yes, yeah. And that's absolutely right. It's wonderful to be tall. It really is. I wouldn't have had it any other way.
And thank you, Phil, for all your work with the Facebook group. You're not quite a moderator, but you're doing an awful lot of answering and welcoming people, which is brilliant.
Thank you very much, Phil.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And thank you very much, Tom. And thank you very much, Letty, for what you're both doing too.
Yeah, great.
You're welcome.
Did you have a good night Friday, Phil?
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Thoroughly, really looking forward to the next one.
Oh, that's good to hear. That is good. You know that video with us in has been played in the States, Cambodia, all over the world.
Oh my goodness. That's wonderful.
You've gone international. Who knew?
Well, it's a pleasure to speak with you again, Phil. And as our eldest member of Tool Talk Times.
Yes.
Big honorary badge there.
Yes.
Thanks for ever so much for joining us today. Just brilliant to hear your view of being tall over the decades.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome,
Lovely.
Phil. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All the best.
Bye.
Bye.